The deal is this. Tell you, when I was a kid, that read Dropper Anton Wilson, all this real. Tell you, when I was a kid, that read Dropper Anton Wilson, all this real. Dude, I'm pissed. Dude, I'm pissed. Come on. What? Okay, by the time we finish this, you're all going to be practicing magician.
I'm Jeremy Greer.
And I'm Gary Butterfield.
And this is Days of Future Cast, the podcast where Gary and I are covering New X-Men by Grant Morrison, and we are into our second arc. We finished E is for Extinction. We took a brief journey over to Hong Kong for the annual issue, and now we are back to New York to talk about Imperials. Is that what the name of this is?
Mm-hmm. Right? Imperial, I think, is the name of this arc.
Yes.
New arc, new artist, Ethan Van Sciver, which I just want to point out before we praise any of this art, because I think it's pretty good, that he is a piece of shit. He's not a good person or anything.
Okay.
He is a Comicsgate dude.
Oh, super lame. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
it's horrible.
Yeah.
This is, before that was a thing, this is in 2001, as we mentioned, 20 years ago. Who knows what his politics were then? It feels like a totally different time. I just want to make sure, I always like to be clear that saying good things about somebody's work is not endorsing their politics.
Sure.
On this, and that dude has done some harm. So
good to know. I will not buy his modern comic books.
Yeah. It's not good to support him directly.
The cover here is pretty interesting, with just Beast, a profile of Beast, like crying one single tear, like he was that Indian guy in that commercial from 30 years ago.
Yeah. He's of the pollution.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I love this cover. It's really understated, and just seeing Beast crying, it's like, oh, something bad is going to happen here. And this is a really heart-wrenching issue.
It is.
Of this.
Mm-hmm.
Starts off with a little fake out with Beast chasing this character, this mutant bird creature, who's a character who's going to be kind of a major character in this run. Where they're going to find out Barnell Bowhusk, aka Beak. He's screaming at him to fly, like basically chasing him in full werewolf form.
Yes, and Barnell tries, but he doesn't get very far off the ground before Beast tackles him, and then praises him, saying, "Hey, that was pretty good. Your evasion time was up. You were able to fly just a little bit, like you're getting your powers under control." And then, of course, danger room off. And then all of the snowy background just starts fading out of existence. And then he asks, "Are you sure about naming yourself Beak, homie? Is that really something you want to do?"
Yeah. Yep. He's like, "Yeah, that was the people called me that to make fun of me. He's from Germany. He mentions, back in Rotterdam, he used to do that. And Beast comes out and introduces him by his name. People choose a mutant name in this. That was introduced to us with Negasonic Teenage Warhead. And it's kind of this little ceremony. Beast comes out and introduces him, and we get this scene of the students.
Yes, I love this.
Here.
I love this page. It expresses so much. There's basically 3 vertical slices. I'm always here for a group of students and Xavier's running around in between classes, and we get that. There's all of these kind of interesting looking characters, and some of them you can see, oh, that chick has 3 faces, or this dude is green, or that dude has green hair and looks like a wizard. There's all sorts of tiny little details, but there's also a main X-Man. Emma is onto the right, moving through as if none of these people exist, and then we go outside with the same kind of scene, and we see a bunch of cool looking mutants kind of casually displaying powers, but Cyclops is right there looking like he's about to punch somebody in the face. And then finally on the very bottom we realize what Psych is looking at, and it's that there's a bunch of humans gathered outside Xavier's school to protest, and basically holding up signs like "Go home, God hates mutants," get your babies tested. It's just real gross.
Yeah, it's all pretty vile, and the protests, of course, are happening because Charles Xavier outed the school. You know, we cut over to Beast talking to Professor Xavier, and just basically empathizing with Beak, like, hey, he can't blend in. He's having a rough time. You know, is this a good time for this? Like, he's got a connection with his student. Like, he promised him his bat. Mm-hmm. Like, he has a titanium baseball bat that he loves. He promised it to him. And Professor Xavier, like, basically brushes him off. Because as we mentioned last time, this is not Professor Xavier.
Yes.
You know, that is the twist. But again, you know, we're discussing that stuff. And basically just says, like, empty statements. You know, no one should feel outcast or alone here.
I love this.
Perhaps I should go in there and fix his brain.
Yeah, like we should just delete his memories. And like that's a very harsh thing to say, and it's very un-Xavier-like to say, except it's kind of not in some cases.
He does it, but he doesn't say it.
Yeah, exactly.
Xavier doesn't talk about it.
And he wouldn't, like, I don't feel like Xavier would delete memories. He would just, like, hide them from you, right? Like, oh, I'm not going to delete them. I'm just going to make sure they're in a subfolder somewhere that you can't access. C:/ not your mom dying / porn /
slash GitHub / he just goes in and alters your memories of him to make him 6 inches taller.
What we like to call the Tom Cruise effect.
Yeah. You know that tall mutant who runs the school? I mean, he's like 5'9". I don't know what you're talking about, but okay. Yeah. We cut over, you know, Beast is like, no, you know, he's like, actually, you seem like you seem happy, Henry. And he's like, well, I have a date. Xavier ominously says, so do I. Dun, dun, dun. We cut over to Beast preparing for his date. He's dressed up in a tuxedo. And he gets a voicemail, like on a classic answering machine. In a real, like, even in 2001, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Remember those. And it's Trish Tilby breaking up with him. Basically for her career. Mm-hmm. You know, there's people, because of now that he is much more, that he's changed forms and he is like a Beast character, like people are, you know, using the word bestiality to refer to their couplehood.
Sure.
And stuff. And like, basically breaks his heart. It's really nasty.
It's really, really mean. Like, this is a conversation you should definitely have in person with somebody.
Yeah. Because,
like, I don't disagree. Like if Autumn turned into a blue crazy monster, like, we would have to have a conversation about it, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. I mean, like, this is going to change some stuff significantly in our relationship. The first of which, like, you're going to have to start brushing a lot more, girl. Like, you're going to have to get that shit straight.
Yeah. You know, and there's other parts of it too that aren't just about her career. She's like, sometimes you look at me and I can't help but think you're looking at me like prey, you know, which is just really cool, like weird little detail.
Yes.
You know, but it's very sad. Like it is a bummer that Beast gets dumped. We cut over to Wolverine, who is meditating. Jean comes upon him and he is saying they're doing yoga, doing Zazen meditation because he is, kind of recharging his healing factor. Like it takes a big toll on his body. Cassandra Nova burned off half his body.
And this is like, because I'd skipped the annual when on my most latest reread, like this was like reading the annual and then reading this was really kind of strange. Cause like he just went through and like, he was just on a mission to Hong Kong, but like now he has to come back here and like recharge. But then he doesn't even mention like all of those weird creatures that he sliced and diced that were like falling off of a Asian general or whatever. So yeah.
I think the implication is that the annual takes place before all of that stuff. Like I think it just kind of floats in time.
Okay. So that makes sense. Yeah, that makes more sense. It does. But Jean is here, like, you know, just basically to talk. Like Wolverine is somebody that she comes to every once in a while for like clarity, or I think he even says like, you're not here for fortune cookies, right? Like that's what what is on your mind? And of course it's, as always, Scott.
Yep.
And their relationship, and she describes it as ever since, you know, he was taken over and then they got him back, she expected everything to go back to normal, but like he's so different and I don't even know who he is anymore, and I don't even think Scott knows who he is anymore. And she just feels lonely, and like this is obviously like Wolverine and Jean have a past. Like Wolverine's been crushing on this chick since small times, and you know this is kind of plays into that. And of course, like in the next panel, she reaches over and kisses him, and he like stops her and is like, "Hey, no, this would never work between us," and literally just walks away.
Yep. Yeah. He kisses her, like she doesn't reach over, like he just does it, you know. But he can kind of read between the lines what she wants at this point. Like they are both kind of flirting with this infidelity because their relationship is not in a good spot.
Well, as we learned in the annual, like he could probably smell the horny, right? Like that's what's happening.
Absolutely. That's exactly what happens. Like, I love that they don't just have him constantly yelling it. If this were a Chris Claremont comic, he would say it in big, like a different font. Like he'd go into every panel just describing his power to do it. Like,
we need a Wolverine comic where he just walks through the mall and goes horny, horny, not horny, not horny.
Like Shazam. Like, or what happened. And, yeah. So we cut back over to the mansion where Emma and Scott are hanging out. And all the students have gathered on the lawn because they want to see the Shi'ar ship land. Professor Xavier is taking a vacation.
Yeah. I love that Emma like tries to pretend that she's extremely over all of this stuff when like it's a fucking spaceship descending from the fucking galaxy. Like what? You're impressed, Emma. We know you're impressed. Like all of this is just bullshit.
Mm-hmm. And then we get this, like one of my favorite scenes in the run, really. We cut over, and I love how this happens right after Xavier gets taken over. Like, they don't play with it. It's not like, hey, let's do a year where it's secretly, spider clone or whatever. Like, nope, he just immediately, does this thing as soon as he gets what he wants. And I love the, just the coincidence of, I pronounced that weird. I didn't mean to. Coincidence. The coincidence of the, if Beast had not had his date canceled, then the X-Men would have been fucked.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Like, none of this stuff would have happened. The fact that Trish broke up with him is why he spent all night researching, and just kind of looking into stuff with Cassandra Nova, digging through his records, trying to distract himself from his heartbreak. And he asked, Xavier is like, hey, why does Cassandra Nova have the same DNA as you? And I love this part where Cassandra Nova's onto him. Like, and what is it? You've cross-referenced Cassandra Nova's DNA with Cerebro's genetic files, didn't you? She just knows exactly what's going to happen because, again, she planned all of this.
And this is the reveal. Like, he asked that question, and he said, and then Cassandra Nova responds, "Well, I'm his genetic twin. We created a psychic connection during conception. Like, it was super easy for me to climb in and take over." And then she literally does this thing which I love so much. It's one of the lines I always remember. Like, how does it feel to have someone throw up on your soul, Henry? And Henry is reeling back. There's this great text of like nightmare, pain, child, bad, ugly, stupid. Like, it's just a psychic attack that makes him feel like a fucking horrible person. And it doesn't stop there. She continues to go on and like just runs this poor guy down of like, you're literally devolving. Like, first you went from man to ape and then ape to feline. Like, are you going to turn into a worm? Like, are you a zoo animal?
Yeah.
Like,
it's so horrible. It's so mean.
And it's especially because it's fucking Hank who like is, at the very first issue of this, Gene is like, I like your new look. Like, it's very distinguished. Like, he's always been like, and I think this was the genius of getting Kelsey Grammer to play him in X-Men 3. Like, he's always been like very, what's the word that I'm looking for here? Like, just very like wants to be refined and clean and like perfectly coiffed and it just, and having all of that taken away from him is just miserable to watch.
Yeah, he's been barely. We start off this comic. They don't have every character just kind of like talk about the rough spot they're in. They reveal it slowly, but everybody's kind of in a rough spot in this. We talked about how Scott is barely holding it together. So is Beast. Like, he's dealing with this. And it's obviously having ramifications. Like, he got dumped earlier tonight from his girlfriend from the 90s. Trish Tilby has been, for quite a while. So like, it's a big deal. Cassandra Nova again twisting.
They were sharing a Facebook account, Gary. That's how deep they were.
It's fucking weird. It's a Friendster account at this point, please. So Cassandra Nova is twisting the knife, and just it's so cruel. You're slowly divulging. Hey, I guess what? I couldn't help but notice the litter box that you have in your lab.
Ouch.
And Beast is trying to remember science. He's like saying things. Hydrogen's one of the atoms that came out of the Big Bang. Like, just basically, it slams its fist against the post. Trying to hold on to his humanity, to
his intellect, right? Like holding on to, because he specifically says like, I can turn the periodic table into a dirty limerick if that's what it takes to get you out of my mind. Like, and that's what he's trying to do. But it does not work. And she forces him to take his doctorate, his PhD degree, and like, clean himself with it. Like, it's just fucking, like, it's just it's disgusting.
Horrible. Yeah. She says, you have no choice. Charles' brain was designed by nature to control the brains of others. I'm sure it can be used to house train an animal. Ouch. It's just so horrible. Luckily he's saved because Beak comes in. He was going to give Hank his bat, which is very, very sad. Like, he's seeing all this stuff happen. It distracts Cassandra Nova. There's this great like villain thing where he's like Professor X, and she turns back. Her eyes are glowing red. And she's like, yes. Just something
dude.
horrible
So terrifying.
is going to happen. Yeah. It's so good.
Terrifying.
What a scary villain.
Yeah.
God, I love Cassandra Nova so much.
And Hank uses this as an opportunity of distraction and like tackles Cassandra Nova, and gets on top and is like, you're absolutely right. Like, I am all of those things, but like, what is it? Why do I just prevent myself from, tearing your face off with my teeth? And it's because I believe in reason and art and literature. And she's like, no, it's because I'm in Xavier's body and you don't want to hurt your precious leader. And then I love this gag of like, oh, and look behind you. And he's like I'm going to fall for, and then of course she's taking control of Beak, and it just makes Beak just wail on Hank with this baseball bat.
And again, just Cassandra Nova's sadism, is so good. Like, Beak is aware, and Beak is begging, like, hey, don't make me hurt him. And she's like, you monstrous child, how could you betray him? It's so horrible.
The panel right underneath that, like where you get the action shot of him just fucking beating up on him with the hammer while Beast just lays there. It's just so like it's like watching American History X for the first time, right? Where you're like, oh God, I don't want anybody to bite a curb. Don't bite a curb, guys. Don't want to see that. Like, it's one of those.
Yep. And basically Cassandra Nova lays it out. Like, Charles tried to murder me a long time ago. Now I'm going to dismantle his dream and make him watch. So we talked about her. Initially she starts off as like an anti-mutant demagogue, but really the only reason why she hates mutants is because Charles loves them.
Yeah.
Leaves at this point. Beast in a bloody heap. Goes out to the lawn where Jean has now gathered with Scott and Emma there, and they're talking about the spaceship landing. Professor Xavier going to get on it, and Xavier is just like, let them talk. I'm proud that mutants were the first people to make extraterrestrial contact. Like, just basically saying anything to make them deflect.
Yes.
Like, make them leave him alone just long enough for him to get on the ship.
I love the combination of the shot between him just saying our record for tolerating this unknown has always been exemplary, and then like the next panel is Beak literally crying in agony over Hank's like destroyed body. Like, it's so sad. Yeah,
it's really good. It's very sad. There's a great little bit of acting here where they kind of question like whether now is the time for you to go on vacation. Jean's like, we'll miss you, basically like reading between the lines, like, this is the worst possible time for you to go.
Please stay. Please fucking stay.
Professor X is like, no, I know you doubt my judgment, but it's been so weary for my soul. There's been too much death. And look at Xavier's face there. Cassandra Nova doing that acting. Like, sad Xavier. Too much death for poor old Xavier.
I do like
it's so fucking sadistic.
The very 2001 shot too, like above this with all the kids pointing their handheld cameras and video cameras at the spaceship flying. Like, we're just a little too early for phones having this ability. And it's just a weird like dating. Like, you would think 2001, like that's post 2000, but like no, that shit was not common. So.
Nope. I definitely had a digital camera at that time. It's landing. There's another great little bit of acting just on Charles Xavier's face where he's looking down at the light coming down. Imagine the responsibility of all that destructive power to crack the firmament and extinguish suns. And now imagine it in the wrong hands.
Yeah, and this final page, this final shot of like the sheer alien ship descending directly and being like this huge massive ship that dwarfs the X Mansion, and like we get this shot of all of the Shi'ar like teleporting down and like Xavier wheeling himself over there. So fucking good. Like we've talked before, like the Shi'ar are real hit or miss. Like sometimes it works for me, sometimes it doesn't. This is one of the, you mentioned like your favorite Shi'ar arc, like absolutely, like 100%.
Yeah. The scale is super good.
Mm-hmm.
Previously, I said that this was the Imperial arc. I think I said it twice. This is actually Germ-Free Generation.
Oh, okay.
I forgot about that. Imperial is next. This is the U-Man little. This was one little issue that dealt with the Shi'ar, but they'll be coming back on a couple issues.
Yeah.
So we're dealing with a 2-issue U-Man plot after this,
which is weird because the wiki doesn't have that for some reason.
It's the wiki takes them based on the names of the trades, like the books that came out, and they're 3-issue arcs. Yeah. So they name them after one of the arcs, even though there are 2 arcs in the book.
Okay.
So, and that's it for this issue. Like, bad things are afoot. Professor Xavier is going into space to control super futuristic empire of super soldiers.
Yeah, super great.
Things are not going well.
Cassandra Nova, most scary X-Men villain that you've ever read, right? Like, just super fucking terrifying. And like you mentioned, the sadistic, like the amount of pleasure she seemed to be taking in doing this and just manipulating these people to have them hurt each other, and just the sheer like not neededness of it. Like you're just going out of your way to be a sadist at this point. Like it's fucking insane. Like I just driving the fucking needle in. So
I'm way into it. Grant Morrison is actually really great at doing villains like that. Like when I read his Batman stuff, his Mr. Pig is a really, really great villain. And then in the Invisibles has many great villains, but it has Mr. Quimper, who is just an incredible, like, scary concept.
I got to get into the Invisibles. Like I for some reason, I think I tried it several times and I bounced off, and I don't remember why. Like it's been a while. Like in that,
it's hard. Is it? It's difficult. Yeah, it's complicated. I actually have a guide. Like there's an annotations book called The Disinformation Guide to the Invisibles. That is a really good. Like I understood it when I read it the first time, but I understood it better.
Gotcha.
Using that book as a guide. There's a lot of references to weird, like, you know, Kabbalah and, you know, actual black magic stuff and everything. It's very dense with reference. So it is very good. It's probably like, you know, the crowning achievement as far as like Grant Morrison stuff. You know, it's not as perfect as We 3, and I don't like it as much as this because I love the X-Men, but it is very good. Like it is the Grant Morrison book. Also has some dodgy art. Because of course it does.
Because of course it does.
Grant Morrison.
Because it's Grant Morrison. Well, thank you everybody for listening. We really appreciate it. If you want to support the show, patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv is the best place to do it. That gets you access to all sorts of cool things. You could also leave iTunes reviews. You can tell us how much you like Everything to Guppy or Watch Out for Fireballs. It doesn't really matter what you write as long as you give us stars.
Nope. Stars are what we want.
Yep.
We're like Nemesis.
Yep.
Get us those stars.
Got to get those stars. But if you can't do that, just straight word of mouth. Tell your friends, post about it on Facebook, share it on your social media, all of that good stuff. We really, really appreciate everybody that's done that. These episodes haven't come out, so we actually haven't heard any feedback yet.
Yeah, I think I said last time, I was like, hey, if you have any feedback, we'll get it before the next session. We won't. We recorded these in short succession because it's fun to do, and we're excited about the new project.
Yes.
And we want to get ahead for the holidays. So please give us your feedback, though, if you like the format, if you don't like the format. Obviously, with feedback, be nice and constructive. You're more likely to be listened to. As a general rule for everything.
You don't need to bring my weight into it. You don't have to
talk about
talk about my hair.
Fat guy and a slightly less fat guy, like, you know, farting off about the X-Men. Like, I don't know if we need to. Don't tell us about farting off, you know?
Yeah. Don't put fart in your review. Save that for everything to Guppy.
No F words, no F bombs.
No F bombs, people.
Yeah.
You would think that Apple would filter that out, but apparently.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the fart bomb.
But thank you again for listening. We'll be back in a couple of days with more new X-Men.
These are the tales of the